What up, Mikey's crew? It's your good friend Michael here, and welcome, sports fans, to another edition of Sports Talk. In this edition, we're going to talk about Army-Navy and their historic game from this past weekend. We'll look at the NFL standings, playoff races, and give you the scores from this past weekend. We'll also look to preview some of the bowl games. We're going to preview up until next Tuesday. Games start this Saturday on the 17th, and we'll go all the way to next Tuesday. So we'll do this about a week at a time. That way we won't preview all of them at once. And that way, I know that some of you are probably going to be doing bowl picks and you probably would like me to do them all at once. But for me, it's just a little easier if we do it a week at a time. That way I can keep some content coming out for you about these. And that way the next week when we can recap the predictions I made for those games, look at those games, and then look forward to the next week's slate of games. First off, I want to mention the Heisman Trophy race from this past Saturday. Lamar Jackson did win. Congratulations, Lamar, on your big win in the Heisman Trophy. Deshaun Watson was second. I thought those were the two that were going to battle it out toward the end. And then after that, it was really a drop-off. There wasn't really a close third place. Baker Mayfield was third. I thought Peppers would finish fourth, but he was 1 point short of that. Dede Westbrook finished fourth. Peppers finished fifth. And congratulations to all the athletes that did earn awards last week. It was also the College Football Awards show last Thursday, and Zach Terrell ended up taking home the academic Heisman, quarterback out of Western Michigan. Great to see that. Congratulations, Zach. Well earned. Has a 4.0 GPA as well, so not just a brilliant athlete, but a smart student as well, and that's something that I definitely like to see. An athlete that's has a plan after college, so that if they don't go pro, they at least can do something they want in their job field in their area that they earn their degree in. So let's first off talk about the Army-Navy game. You may remember the Temple-Navy game, the American Athletic Coast Conference, or not American, that I did not say that right. The American Conference Championship game, American Coast, no such thing. So anyways, that game, Navy lost two of their big stars, and coming into the Army game, I was kind of feeling, I think this might be the year Army beats Navy. And I don't know why I root for Navy usually, but I just do. Maybe it's just because they've had the better teams, and when I started watching the game, I was just like, well, let's just go for Navy. Maybe it's because Army had basically the upper hand when I was watching when I was younger, because Army did lead the series, and then Navy really took the upper hand and had won every game since 2002, because Army's last win was in 2001. And since then, Navy had been pretty dominant. They had been going to bowl games basically on a regular basis. But of course, this game is more than just a game. It's two of our armed forces in the country, and most of these players that are playing are not going to be going pro in football or whatever sport they might be playing at the university there. They're going to be, or military campus, I should say. They're not going to be doing that. They're going to be going out and defending our country, our freedom. So, for these, athletes to take the field gives them, a little bit of time away from having to think about some of the, dangerous missions that some of them are going to have to be going on after they graduate. So it gives them that kind of distraction, I would say. And it gives them time to let out some steam as well. And if you don't think that these players don't care about the sport they play, they are very disciplined. Both Army and Navy players, and Air Force as well. They are all very, very disciplined. And it's a great treat to watch this game, because you got all the cadets, you got all the midshipmen dressed up in their uniforms, and they're all cheering their teams on like crazy. So if you don't think that this game isn't a big deal, it is, and it matters not just to them, but matters to a lot of people around the country as well. So Army did win for the first time since 2001. They got out to a 14-0 lead in this game before Navy ended up scoring 17 unanswered points, but then Army answered back with a touchdown to make it 21-17. They were able to stop Navy the rest of the way. So there weren't a lot of passes thrown in this game. There was only 14 total passes, 10 thrown by Navy, 4 by Army. It was mostly a rushing attack. Navy ran the ball 26 times for 112 yards. How about Army? 70 carries for 316 yards. They literally controlled this game. I think from what they said, they had the ball for over 40 minutes in this game. And Kel Walker was their leading rusher. 16 carries, 94 yards. Andy Davidson, 28 for 87 on the day. Edgar Poe was Army's leading receiver, and you did hear that name right. 1 reception for 29 yards on the day. And Army was able to force, I think, 4 Navy turnovers from what they said. So that's why Army was able to control the ball so much. This is how much they controlled it. 40 minutes, 32 seconds to Navy's 19:28. That's just dominating right there. You control the clock that much during the game. You're going to be doing things right. You're going to probably win the game. Navy was 2 of 7 on third down. That did not help their cause. Army 8 of 13 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth downs. They had 351 total yards on the day. No penalties for Army, 3 for Navy for 15 yards. Like I said, these teams are disciplined. They are not going to commit penalties. Navy had 3 turnovers. Army had 4. So that's why it was close. There were a lot of turnovers in this game. Navy 8 first downs to Army's 23. Just looking at those stats, just looking at how Army was able to run the ball to the time of possession they had, this game shouldn't have been close. But you know what? Navy will take the victory. And guess what? Both teams this year are going to finish with a winning record, something you don't usually see. Navy's usually the one with the winning record. They've been pretty... excuse me. I've been getting over a cold, so my throat's still a little dry, so you'll have to bear with me throughout this video. Navy's been a more dominant team. You've seen them with more winning records, but Army has, they've started to turn it around, become more disciplined, and be able to run the ball more and use that power style offense to control the ball, to control the game. And they're 7-5. They're going to a bowl game, and Navy's 9-4. They'll be going to a bowl game as well. And Army beat a top 25 team. Navy came into this game ranked 25th, so they can take that too, saying, hey, we just didn't beat Navy, but we beat a top 25 Navy team. Now, there was some debate. There was some debate that maybe Army wouldn't be getting a bowl game because they had played 2 FCS teams in the regular season, and only one of those wins can actually count toward your bowl, can count toward your victories toward a bowl game. But with this win, that gives them a bowl game no matter what. But they were already selected anyways, and I'm glad whoever was doing this decided, even though Army had 2 FCS wins, to let them go to a bowl game. These cadets deserve it. They deserve to have that chance to go celebrate, to go to a bowl game, because how many of these cadets from Army, these players, can say, hey, we're going to a bowl game? It's a nice added bonus to an end of a season. So congrats to Army, congrats to Navy as well. It was a well fought, hard game. Now let's talk about the bowl games coming up. There are a few coming up this weekend, and we're going to go all the way previewing through next Tuesday. There will be some on Saturday, and there's going to be one next Tuesday, and then we'll pick it up again next week by previewing Wednesday through Saturday games. There's no bowl games on Sundays. Sundays are for the NFL, and so college football has always respected that. So the first bowl game is going to be the New Mexico Bowl. It's December 17th at 2 o'clock. It features New Mexico 8-4 against University of Texas San Antonio, which is 6-6. New Mexico, of course, playing in their own bowl game at their stadium. Bob Davie is the coach of this team. He's done a great job at New Mexico. No doubt about that. He's definitely turned this program around, because when he showed up, basically they were winning 1 or 2, maybe 3 games a year. Now Now he's turned them into a winning program. You almost see New Mexico in a bowl game every single year. It's always in the New Mexico Bowl as well. They get to stay close to home, play in front of their fans, and that's why I believe New Mexico's going to win this game. I'm picking New Mexico to win it. they're going to score in bunches as well, might I say that. Now, the next game is the Las Vegas Bowl. That's 3:30 on the 17th as well. It features Houston against San Diego State. Houston this year 9-3, San Diego State 10-3. And of course, Houston's coach Tom Herman has now went to Texas. They've hired Major Applewhite. He was on Houston's staff, so he's going to have to implement his own system. Though I doubt he's going to run the same one that Tom Herman had. Houston's got Greg Ward Jr. at quarterback. He's a good one. But San Diego State also is the leading rusher in college football, who might just break Ron Dayne's record. I think he only needs 108 yards to break the all-time NCAA rushing mark, and that's Donnell Pumphrey. And so even though Houston has been the better team really all season, San Diego State's been good, but Houston's been better. But with the coaching change going on, and with Houston maybe thinking about, well, we had chances at going to the college football playoff possibly, and we blew that, and they might not be all hyped up for this game. I'm actually going to pick San Diego State. I think they'll be able to control the clock. Donnell Pumphrey is going to break the record. I think it'll be a little, he might be pressing to get it, but I think he gets it early in the game. I think he gets it before halftime hits. I think he'll be over that mark, and the second half, San Diego State's going to be able to open it up, and Donnell Pumphrey's not going to have any more pressure on him, and he's going to get a lot of yards. I predict San Diego State is going to be able to win that game. In the Camilla Bowl, that's also on the 17th at 5:30. It's Appalachian State versus Toledo. Both teams have 9-3 records. We all remember Appalachian State beginning of the season almost beat Tennessee. They're a good team. They're a solid team. They're good on defense. They do have a good offense as well. I know they didn't show it against Tennessee, but this is a good team out of the Sun Belt Conference. But Toledo is just as good. I remember, obviously seeing them play Western Michigan. The Kareem Hunt at running back. They got Logan Woodside at quarterback. Both are prolific players. Kareem Hunt had 200 rushing yards against Western. Logan Woodside didn't have a great game because he threw a couple of picks. But most of the year, he hadn't thrown any interceptions. I think coming into the Western game, he might have thrown 5 interceptions. I'm predicting Toledo is going to end up beating Appalachian State in this game. Now, in the Cure Bowl, that's at 5:30 on the 17th as well. You got Arkansas State against Central Florida. Central Florida had a terrible season last year in 2015. It did not win any games at all. And Scott Frost came in, was hired as head coach at Central Florida. He has turned that program around. They played Michigan, obviously, earlier this year. You might remember they had a long touchdown run against Michigan. They did score 14 points. They weren't that competitive against the Maize and Blue, but they did end up scoring on Michigan more than what Hawaii did. I think Central Florida comes in, all hyped up for this bowl game, and I think for that reason they'd end up winning the game. Also on the 17th, this is the last game of the night. You've got Louisiana Lafayette against Southern Mississippi. Both teams are 6-6. The Golden Eagles coming into the game are playing under their 5th head coach in 9 years. This team of Southern Mississippi used to be a pretty dominant team in Conference USA. They've been up and down recently, but they're back up again a little bit. And they did end up beating division champ Louisiana Tech. So that's how they ended up becoming bowl eligible. So that's pretty good. And Louisiana Lafayette needed to win their last game to become bowl eligible, and that's also really good because that means the NCAA doesn't have to pick 5 and 7 teams to go bowling. So you get to see Louisiana Lafayette against Southern Miss. Usually in this game, this is where Lafayette plays, is in the New Orleans Bowl, and typically they win this game. However, I think Southern Miss is just a little bit more talented, and I believe they're going to win because quarterback Nick Mullins, well, he can definitely play. And I think Southern Miss ends up beating Louisiana Lafayette. I just think they're a little bit better team than what Lafayette is this year. And the last game is the Miami Beach Bowl. That's on Tuesday the 19th. And it's going to be featuring 6-6 Central Michigan against 9-3 Tulsa. Tulsa recently put up 59 points on Memphis, and they ended up beating Houston. Memphis did, so I think this is going to be a really high-scoring affair. If we all remember Central's, look at they're 6-6 if they didn't have that untimed down against Oklahoma State, this team is not bowl eligible. They started the season 3-0 and they finished 3-6. You remember they lost to Virginia. They got down big in that game. They almost came back and won. Then they got smashed by Western. They lost in the last waning seconds against Eastern Michigan. They needed a win against Ohio to get that bowl eligible spot to become bowl eligible. Cooper Rush is a really good quarterback for Central Michigan, but their defense just is not that great. I don't think his arm is going to be able to keep him in this game. Tulsa's going to be scoring a lot. They're going to be scoring a lot and in bunches in this game. They have a prolific offense, and I don't think they're going to be able to stop Tulsa. So I think with that being said, I think Tulsa ends up beating Central Michigan, I would say fairly handily. So let's move on now to the NFL, talk about scores from this past week. Thursday night game, the Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Oakland Raiders 21-13. That puts the Chiefs in first place in the AFC West. The Raiders drop from the first seed all the way down to the fifth seed in the wild card. Ouch. The Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Buffalo Bills 27-20. The Denver Broncos lose to the Tennessee Titans 13-10 in a game where tempers flared. Aqib Talib thought one of his players had taken a cheap shot from Tennessee, and so he went after that player the next play, and then a scum broke out on the sideline. Broncos 8-5 might lose out because they have to play the Raiders, the Patriots, and the Chiefs. Good luck for winning any of those games the rest of the way. I'm sorry to say that, but I don't think my team is making the playoffs this year. Redskins defeat the Eagles 27-22. We all remember when the Eagles were so great early on. We were bragging up Carson Wentz. Not that we still aren't bragging him up, but they're just not playing as efficiently as what they were earlier. Dolphins defeat the Cardinals 26-23 on a game-winning field goal. However, Ryan Tannehill may be out for a while, and that might hurt the Dolphins' playoff chances. Carolina defeats San Diego 28-16. The Browns are still winless, 0-13, lose to the Bengals 23-10. The Browns have any chance to win any games? Well, I'll tell you what. This next week they're in Buffalo. Buffalo is a team that is sliding right now. And I would give them a chance against Buffalo. I also give them a chance against San Diego. That's actually a home game the second to last week of the season. Now, if the Browns lose both those games, they play Pittsburgh final game of the season, they will finish 0-16 and will be the second team in NFL history to finish 0-16. And not just that, but they lost every preseason game as well this year. The Lions defeat the Bears 20-17. Matthew Stafford, we're all kind of worried about his injured finger, but he was okay. Really, he was able to lead the Lions on a final fourth quarter comeback drive. He was able to run the ball in for a touchdown to give the Lions a lead. The Lions had a 13-3 lead in this game before the Bears made it 13-10, and then Stafford threw a pick six, and I was all wondering, oh great, we're going to lose to the Bears again this year. But that didn't happen. He led them on a comeback. Lions win another close game. Every game of theirs has been close this year except for the one against the Saints, really. And so the Lions are now 9-4. They're still sitting the top of their division in the NFC North. And if they were to win their next game and say Minnesota and Green Bay were to both lose, well, Lions are going to end up taking the division for the first time since 1993. Now, they basically eliminated Minnesota. Minnesota has basically been eliminated. They would have to hope for the Lions to lose out. Same thing basically with Green Bay. They're going to have to, beat Green Bay at some point as well. But I don't see, even though the Lions have a tough 3 remaining games at the Giants, at Dallas, and home against Green Bay, I think they end up at least winning maybe one of those, maybe two. Maybe they can beat the Giants. Maybe they can beat Green Bay. I give them a chance even against Dallas. If the Lions somehow win out, they still have a shot at the number 1 seed. Right now, they've slipped up to the They've jumped up to the number 2 seed with a Seattle loss this past weekend. But we'll have to keep an eye on Matthew Stafford and his finger. Of course, the Bears had chances at the end. They had 2 passes that put them within field goal range, but were both called back due to holding, and they ended up with 1st and 30, had to go for it on 4th and 11, couldn't convert, and that's how the Lions won. The Texans defeat the Colts 22-17. They still claim the division lead in the AFC South. Not just that, but that was the Texans' first time they've swept Indianapolis in franchise history in the season. Vikings defeat the Jaguars 25-16. The Jets fell behind to San Francisco 17-0. Came back and won 23-17. The 49ers are 1-12. I think at the end of the year, if San Francisco finishes 1-15 and the Browns are 0-16, let these two teams battle out for worst team in the league. I'm just saying, let it happen. Buccaneers, they continue their hot streak. They defeat the Saints 16-11. It seems the Buccaneers always end up with weird scores. They're 8-5 on the year, sitting in a wild card spot. Falcons all over the Rams, 42-14. Rams fire head coach Jeff Fisher after just 2 weeks ago they gave him an extension. Okay. Packers smash the Seahawks 38-10. Cowboys lose for the second time this year as they lose to the Giants 10-7 in Sunday Night Football. And in Monday Night Football, Patriots over the Ravens 30-23. So let's take a look at the playoff standings now. As soon as I bring them up here. So right now in the AFC, Patriots hold the 1 seed with an 11-2 record. Kansas City 10-3 sits at the number 2 spot. So those are really the two teams vying for the top 2 spots. I know the Raiders can still overtake them, could still end up getting the 2 spot, but there's no way that Pittsburgh or Houston is gonna overtake them for those 1 or 2 spots. Pittsburgh's 8-5 at the 3 spot. Houston 7-6. Oakland's 10-3, and for now, Denver sits in the 6th spot at 8-5. But the Dolphins have the same record, are just lurking. Ravens and Titans as well, both at 7-6. Over in the NFC, Dallas is the only team right now to have clinched a playoff berth. They're 11-2 at the moment at the 1 seed. The Lions are 9-4. Wouldn't it be amazing if the Lions finish as the 2 seed? I mean, we're talking about the Lions, the Detroit Lions, a team that doesn't usually go to the playoffs. We're always expecting them to blow it or find a way to lose, and here they are this season finding ways to win. Could it be a newborn Lions? Remember when the Lions were 1-3, and we're all like, that's it, end of the year, fire Jim Caldwell, get him out of there. Now everyone's probably saying, let's keep Jim Caldwell. Seahawks right now are 8-4-1 in the 3 spot. Falcons in the 4 spot at 8-5. The Giants in the wild card at 9-4. Tampa Bay 8-5. And Washington is lurking at 7-5-1. Minnesota 7-6. Green Bay 7-6. Those are really the teams fighting for the final playoff spot. The only ones that can probably really get it. So comment what you think about your bowl projections for this weekend. What do you think about the NFL? Can the Lions hold on to the number 2 spot? Can they win their last 3 games? Will they make the playoffs? That's another good question. Will they slip to being out of the playoffs by losing the last 3? I mean, comment in the comment section below what you think about that. Will the Cleveland Browns win a game? Just comment anything you would like. The comment section below. I'll be happy to answer your questions. So thank you for watching and thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more content. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in the description below. And drop a thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed listening to Sports Talk this week. This is Mike Loudon over and out. Mikey's Crew, you guys are the best. Take care. We'll talk to you again next week.